What if Ned Stark married Ashara Dayne before the rebellion? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. The great tourney of Harrenhal was slowly coming to an end, and the mood was simmering. As the jousts ended, the lords turned their cups to discuss what they had seen, whether it be the men on their destriers or the ladies watching in the gallery. For many, the talk was on Rhaegar and how he rode like a demon. Others talked about Robert and Lyanna and how they had been dishonored by Rhaegar's actions. The young Baratheon himself was heavy in his cups. He shook his head, going from drunken laughter and saying it was what Lyanna deserved, but at times turning into anger. He says that he should have joined the lists to provide the young Stark the honor of anyone who would hear him. Ned would have joined him there to offer comfort and some reassuring words, but for once he could not bring himself to deal with his friend. He had other matters to attend to. His thoughts drifted off to last night's events, not the joust, but the ensuing dance. There he had, at last, felt her touch, Ashara Dayne. Since he had felt her violet eyes looking at him, he could not get her out of his head, and when they danced, she could sense her attention was on him as well. It was how Robert said he felt when he first met Lyanna, and for once, Ned decided to be more like his friend. He finds his father alone, preparing to head back into his quarters.
Father, I've come to speak with you on a matter of great importance. I understand that there would be a time when I must wed. I will gladly do this for the good of House Stark. I only ask you consider a woman whom I believe can be a suitable candidate, Lady Ashara Dayne. Lady Dayne? A Dornish woman? I must say, I am most surprised. It is rare for one of our own to marry out of the north. The Mormonts have pushed forward a candidate, as had the Harrenhals and Manderleys. I understand that, Father, but I know you also wish to look beyond the north. Else, why would I have been fostered in the Vale, or attended this tourney? There is a potential in this match. The Dornish are well represented thanks to Rhaegar's marriage to Elia Martell. Lady Ashara is a lady-in-waiting, and her brother Sir Arthur, the Sword of Mourning. Surely that must account for something.
It takes some convincing, but Rhaegar relents this marriage. Ned makes many good points, but seeing how fervent he is about it softens the old Stark's heart. Thankfully, House Dayne is also open to the idea. Being from a great house, there is little reason to refuse. Within the moon's turn, they are married, and the two find themselves happily married. Lady Ashara gladly accompanies her husband back to the Vale, where she becomes fast friends with Robert, who cannot be happier about this marriage. Throughout the journey back, Robert comments on what it will be like when he at last marries Lyanna, and how the four of them will be closer than ever. It is a happy thought, but Ned's face remains unusually grim. While many leave Harrenhal happy and entertained, Ned Stark is worried. It is as if a vision of doom had visited him, and now he cannot help but feel like something is about to go wrong. And then, it happens. Shortly after, a report circulated that Rhaegar abducted Lyanna Stark. Ned's brother and father go to confront the Targaryens in King's Landing and pay for it with their lives. A day later, he is calling for Ned's head as well, and a week later, rebellion has begun. While Robert throws himself into the war, Ned is less certain. This war threatens their marriage, as their houses serve opposite sides of the war. As they prepare to board a ship in Gulltown to take them north, Ned takes the girl in his hands.
As we leave the Vale, I fear this war will spread throughout the Seven Kingdoms, and it will become impossible for our houses to avoid crossing swords. My lady, I cannot see what will come in the future, so if you must return to be with your king, go now, and I will not begrudge.
My lord, my house's enemies are not my own. You have done no wrong to House Dayne. I will not leave you for this war that is not my own.
And yet if you go with me north, you might be regarded as an enemy. Your brother serves in Aerys Kingsguard, and my men will not look on it kindly.
Then let them talk. It does not frighten me. I will go with you, and I will be your wife.
Ned pulls his wife close, pulling their heads together as they board the ship. Ashara is left in Winterfell while Ned rides off to aid Robert in his rebellion. The war is just as brutal as he had feared. Battles rage all across the Seven Kingdoms, and tens of thousands die. The fighting only dies down when at last the rebels meet the royalists in the Trident. Here, Robert brings the war to an end when he crushes Prince Rhaegar's chest. Yet while the war is over, the violence persists. The Lannisters take advantage of the chaos and strike at King's Landing, sacking it and murdering the royal family, including Elia Martell and her children. When Ned sees this, he is equal parts horrified and disgusted. He calls for the Lannisters to be punished for their treason, yet Robert cannot bring himself to do so, as he knows, so long as the Targaryens live, there will not be peace. Ned can hardly believe this, but his mind is elsewhere, as he instead journeys to the Tower of Joy to rescue his sister, and there, he sees him, the Sword of the Morning and his fellow Kingsguard.
Lord Stark?
I looked for you on the Trident.
We weren't there.
The Mad King is dead. Rhaegar lies beneath the ground. Why weren't you there to protect your prince?
Our prince wanted us here.
Where's my sister?
Ned looks upon Sir Arthur Dayne as his hand reaches for his sword. He is tempted to do the same, and around him, his companions look prepared as well. But Ned orders them to sheath their blades.
Sir Arthur, we are kin by marriage, and do not wish to stain your blood on the earth, no more than you wish to spill mine. For Ashara's sake, do not make me do this. I am sorry, my lord, but I have no choice. What is so important that requires you to go to these lengths? To abandon your prince, the future? I know what your friend, the usurper, will do if he discovers this. We cannot let him snuff it out to soothe his bloodlust.
Ned's gaze darkens as he falls upon them. Realization hits them as he begins to understand what all of this might mean. And then it dawns on him just why the King's Guard are so anxious. Why would they abandon the war? His mind flashes to King's Landing and the corpses upon the Iron Throne, to the reports of how they are besieging Dragonstone.
You distrust Robert, but I am not him. Whatever you have in there, let me help.
You? And why would the usurper's pet wolf help us? Why should we trust you?
I am not asking you to trust me. I am asking you to trust Lady Ashara, and know that she would never wed a man who is capable of doing what you think I am. No. Do as he says. Arthur, surely you do not believe this. I do. I trust my sister. She is no fool, and neither am I. Do as he says.
Reluctantly, his two companions lower their weapons, and then they part ways to let Ned pass. And from Lyanna, he hears the truth.
You have to protect him. Promise me, Ned. Promise me. Promise me, Ned. Promise me.
Ned stares at the child in disbelief, hardly believing what he hears, but he has little time to ponder it as he focuses on his sister. The young Stark gives him one last, tired smile before closing her eyes. When he emerges, he is carrying the baby, and the three Kingsguard all drop to their knees before him, as do the Northmen accompanying him. With Lyanna gone, they must think of a plan. As they gather in the tower, Arthur explains everything to them about what Rhaegar had seen. It isn't just some whim that made him reach out to take Lyanna. He felt like it was destiny. When they hear of his prophecy and the tale of the prince who was promised, Ned's expression darkens. All of this was built on a what-if. The idea that Rhaegar had seen the future and not simply had delusions of grandeur. He isn't sure if he wants to hang his head or curse the prince's name. And yet, the child is here, and all he can do is make the most of it. Ned decides that he shall claim the boy as his, and Ashara's, to keep him hidden from Robert. Sir Arthur will return him to Winterfell and help raise the boy. However, it would be too risky if all three Kingsguard go with him. Instead, Sir Geralt and Oswell will travel across the Narrow Sea to protect the remaining Targaryen children, those who had fled in exile alongside Sir Willem. Their job will be to keep them safe, to prevent them from trying to plunge the realm into war once again. It is far from an easy task, but all of them look to one another and accept it. The two knights say goodbye to the Sword of Morning and board the first ship to Essos, where Ned provides them information about the Targaryens' movements. Meanwhile, Sir Arthur dyes his hair gray and adopts the name Corrin. When anyone asks, Ned simply states that he was a commoner who saved his life during the rebellion and was rewarded by becoming his bodyguard. The Northmen are all sworn to secrecy as they return north. Ashara immediately understands the necessity of this after both her husband and brother explain everything, and she agrees to let the boy pose as her son. She names the boy Jon. At the same time, the rest of the Kingsguard journey to Braavos, where Sir Willem Darry had said to have sailed with Daenerys and Viserys Targaryen. The old knight is overjoyed to see his companions and welcomes them. The gold they bring with them allows the Targaryens to live in relative comfort. Winterfell breathes differently now. The halls echo with more than wind and cold. They echo with the sound of children laughing. The snow still falls. The walls still stand high and gray. But life pulses here as the Stark family grows. Jon grows tall under Ned and Ashara's roof, raised not as a bastard, not as a shameful secret, but as a son. The future of the North without a crown, but not without purpose. He knows he shall be Lord of Winterfell when the time comes, and his parents work to prepare him. Ned is dutiful, quiet, patient, but not cold. There is a warmth that belies his seemingly inapproachable appearance. Meanwhile, Ashara teems with life, and she laughs and lives, savoring her life and never hiding her thoughts, especially when it comes to her pride in Jon. And always, just behind, watching silent with the eyes like a storm cloud, is Qhorin. To the world, he's just a quiet sword hand from the rebellion, great and grim. To Jon, he is something else entirely. A protector, a teacher, an uncle in all but name. The man trains Jon in the courtyard when the snow is too thick for the others, walking through sword forms passed down from the dawn of days. And when the boy asks why the blade must be respected, Qhorin doesn't speak of battle. He speaks of restraint, of duty. Swords are not toys meant to be pulled out on a whim, or simply tools for authority. They are a reflection of the wielder and what he stands for. Jon listens. Jon learns. In some ways he feels just as much of a father as Ned, but both men hold honor highly. But Arthur laughs when Ned is quiet, and then came his siblings. First is Sybil, born a year after Jon, with Ashara's sharp cheekbones and Ned's thoughtful eyes. She is quiet and takes more from Ned than Ashara, though she has her mother's pride. By 5, she walks the halls like she owns them. By 10, she's slipping behind servants to eavesdrop on lords. And by 12, she hears it. The whispers. They speak of Qhorin too often, in tones too hushed. Gossip with teeth. She follows the trail, sometimes cloaked in a servant's garb. When she finds the source, a merchant's son who drunkenly claims that Qhorin is Jon Stark's true father, she gives the boy a black eye for his efforts and warns him never to repeat that. Although she never tells her parents, Qhorin soon learns about it. He doesn't scold her. Instead, he watches her for a long time, then simply asks,
Next time, speak to me first.
But he also thinks of an outlet to train her. In the aftermath of the rebellion, no kingdom was as restless as Dorne. The death of 3 generations of Martells leave them burning for vengeance. There were even rumors that the Red Viper tried to raise his banners. The only thing that calmed them down was Jon Arryn and Sir Arthur Dayne. While the Starks raise their children, he travels to Sunspear in secret and meets with the Martells. There, he presents himself to Doran and Oberyn in secret, not as Qhorin, but as the Sword of Mourning. He comes to beg for forgiveness for failing to protect their sister, but also to tell them about Ned. Plans are told in the dead of night, and promises are made. There is a great injustice that needs to be corrected, but the Martells can count the Starks as their allies so long as they play their part.
Do not worry. Soon the sun will outshine the lion in the 7 kingdoms, and Elia's spirit shall burn bright.
He kneels before the bones of Elia Martell, buried beneath the crypt in secret, and the promises that justice will not be forgotten. Not by him, not by House Dayne, not by the North. Oberyn Martell listens in silence, his eyes gleaming like drawn blades. Then he turns to Sybil and smiles like a man seeing a dagger take shape. She will make a valuable hostage and an ally. So Sybil goes south, for a time. The Sand Snakes do not coddle her. She comes back sharper, quieter, watching everything. Jon remains in the north. Just a year after Sybil's birth, Torrens follows. The boy grows to be big and fierce, and equally loyal. He grew up with stories of knights and great warriors. So Ned sends him to be fostered by Great Jon Umber. He's taller than most, broad in shoulder, hard-headed, harder-fisted. Where Jon is measured, Torrens is flame. He chafes at caution, charges into sparring matches like their battles, and earns more bruises than victories. But he never stops fighting, and he never forgets who taught him loyalty. He serves as Jon's squire, loyal and fierce. Far across the sea, another household grows, different but not broken. Daenerys is young when they settle near Braavos, a simple villa, high-walled and shaded, protected by coin and Kingsguard steel. It is not grand, but it is safe. Geralt Hightower teaches them the histories. Oswald Went drills them in combat, command, and the expectations of rule. Sir Willem is old, but kind, and reminds them often of who they are, not to swell their pride, but to guard them from decay. The old knight loves the children as if they were his own, and the Kingsguard as if they were his brothers. When he passes away, he does so content in knowing his charges are safe. Daenerys dances in the gardens. She has tutors, friends, and freedom. Viserys, however, broods. He is treated well, fed, clothed, educated in the ways of statecraft, but he never forgets that he is a prince without a crown, a king without a court. He stares often at the stars above the villa, whispering the names of dragons. Geralt notes that he shows promise and command in combat. He's no fool, but he also carries the weight of his demons. He is impatient, eager to at last take the lands lost to him. Every night, Geralt watches as the prince holds his mother's crown close, the last heirloom of their family. He keeps it close to his chest as if it were a child's toy, muttering promises to it.
One day, I will at last be able to wear you with pride. I will be worthy, and the realm shall know it.
Meanwhile, the realm that the Targaryens leave behind is quiet, happy to forget about their rule if it means putting the war behind them. Robert's reign is one largely of peace. The wars soon fade into distant memories as the long summer stretches on and on. This wealth is thanks largely to Jon Arryn, who rules in the king's name. But while it appears perfect on the surface, something is festering beneath. A corruption, as in this quiet comes complacency and ambition, with many lords looking to further enhance their station. The court becomes a hotbed of ambition, with the Lannisters being one of the most ambitious houses. They seek not to just marry into the royal family, but to rule in their own right. This ambition catches the attention of Jon Arryn, who looks into the activity and soon discovers a terrible secret about the parentage of the royal children. And yet before he can look further into it, he mysteriously falls ill and dies. Robert wastes no time in searching for his successor and recruits Ned Stark for the task. It is a difficult decision, as Jon has just turned 15, but he knows his friend needs him and consults with his family.
To go south now would mean to leave Jon behind. It would mean leaving you all behind.
And yet it is your duty. I have known this all my life. It was one of the things that drew me to you.
And yet, it still hurts me to picture it. To be away from you all.
It is not forever. Once things have quieted down there, I may take the trip south, and then perhaps Jon and Torrance.
You do not need to worry about us, Father. You've taught us well. Jon will keep Winterfell up and running, and I'll keep that pretty head of his on his shoulders. All right. I'm trusting both of you.
I hear that Sybil is already making the journey to the capital. She says something about not wanting to miss any of the good gossip.
All right then. It seems I will not be entirely alone. Corran, I can trust you to keep my family safe. Haven't I always, my lord?
The two men trade a smile, and Ned journeys south. When he arrives, he finds his daughter waiting for him. The woman who greets Ned looks almost unrecognizable. She dresses in the robes of the Vale of Dorne, and her skin now tanned from years under the sun, and she moves with a dancer's grace. But on her shoulder is the clasp of the direwolf, a parting gift Ned had given her all those years ago. The two share an embrace, and Sybil slips back into being Ned's daughter. But while Ned might be Hand, he soon learns just how out of depth he is. The court proves to be a place of pitfalls, with vipers waiting to devour anyone who falls in. Ned tries to navigate it as best he can, but every step calls for him to give up his honor, to abandon what he believes in, and instead fight them on their level. It is something he cannot do. This leads him to increasingly rely on his daughter. In contrast to him, Sybil is far more accustomed to the trappings of court. Having grown up in Sunspear, she knows how to put on a smile, but sharpen a dagger behind her back. She listens to courtiers and begins gathering her own network of spies. The few Dornishmen in court happily work with her, while she mingles with the household and uses them to get information. Ned continues the investigation of Jon Arryn and what he was looking into before he died. Sybil soon learns that he had been meeting with Stannis quite often in their last few weeks. Sybil builds a network of allies over the next few weeks, privately interviewing individuals Ned cannot be seen with, visiting places in the dead of night, and looking amongst the court for those misleading her father. All of this just barely keeps the knives from their back. Eventually, it all comes together when the two are discussing of what Jon Arryn's visit could mean. He also keeps his old friend in Essos informed of Robert's plans, warning them about the assassination attempts and ensuring they are kept inside.
Perhaps Quinn says he is eliminating Robert's bastards or trying to have them removed. Didn't she once put a serving woman to death after she slept with Robert?
Aye, but why wait this long? Some of the bastards have long passed into adulthood. If she was worried about their claims, why not eliminate them earlier? It's a shame there is no one we can ask but the Queen.
Not exactly. A few of the servants have told me she often visits her brother, sometimes after King Robert has left to sleep. Maybe she's keeping tabs on her, to see who might be in trouble.
Wait, did you say the Queen's brother? Jaime Lannister?
Certainly not Tyrion.
The seed is strong. The seed is strong.
Then it all starts to click together. He starts to look over those genealogies a second time and looks at the descriptions more closely. Black hair, black hair, black hair. No Baratheon had ever been born blonde, not even those with blonde mothers or fathers. The bastards Robert had fathered are living proof of that. That must mean that Joffrey and the others are not Robert's children. He turns to Sybil.
Sybil, you must get out of here. Can you slip out of the city without anyone detecting you?
Well, yes, but...
Then you must go now. Deliver a message for me.
Father, what are you planning?
Something I might soon regret. That is why you cannot remain here.
Father, I'm not leaving you behind. Whatever may come, we can face it together.
To her surprise, Ned begins to smile. He pauses and then looks over at her with a lopsided smile.
Just like your mother. Too stubborn and too much pride. Do not worry. I have no intention of dying here. I have a plan.
Ned begins to lay it out, and realization dawns on his daughter's face. She nods and offers her own suggestions, too. By nightfall, the two of them have a plan, and by midnight, Sybil is riding out alone. She charters a ship to take her away from King's Landing. The next day, Ned tries to confront Cersei about the incest allegations, urging her to confess and flee the city. Ned threatens to expose her if she refuses, but this only causes the Queen to laugh. In the coming days, Robert mysteriously dies from a hunting accident, and Ned is arrested when he tries to assume power per Robert's will. He is arrested for treason and left in the black cells to rot. And yet, without any leverage over him, they cannot force him to confess. Simply executing him may turn much of the realm against them, so Ned is kept in captivity. But a ship soon lands at the port of Dragonstone. It is a little more than a dinghy launched from a trading galley that did not want to venture too close. And from there, Sybil Stark sets out. She carries a letter given to her by Ned Stark and presents it to the nearest guards. At first, none of them believe what they are seeing, but Sybil is insistent and demands to speak with Stannis. She is soon escorted to Dragonstone Castle, where Stannis awaits her in the chamber of the painted table. The letter Ned Stark wrote is in his hands as he stares down at the girl.
So, you were the one who made quite a fuss in the fishing village below. Tell me, why should I believe anything you say?
Are Starks known to be liars?
Dornishmen are. And besides, you mean to tell me Ned Stark discovered the truth of Cersei's affair? Now he means to offer his support.
We want justice as much as you, Lord Stannis. If you march, you can count on us among your blades. But my father has matters he wishes to speak to you of.
Then why does he not go to Renly?
Because he knows you are a man of your word, just like him. And honest to a fault.
And if I agree, you will call the North to war.
Not just the North. Dawn will rise as well. The court may have left Dorne to the wayside, but I have spent half my life there. And I know the Martells as well as my family. I can help secure it for you.
It is a rather tempting offer.
What is it you require to make this happen?
Nothing but a ship and a raven.
Soon enough, a raven is sent out to Winterfell, followed by the speediest ship in Stannis' fleet. Altogether, it takes a week for Winterfell to retrieve that message, a fortnight for Corran to reach White Harbor, and a month for him to land at Dragonstone. All that time, Ned languishes in prison, kept alive until Cersei believes he is broken. But as that happens, Jon calls the North's banners and begins to march down the neck. Cersei also calls her father and urges him to join them. Tywin soon raises his banners, marshalling some 25,000 men, but also sends word to the Riverlands. He suggests a potential match between Ser Edmure and Queen Cersei, as well as a few lesser Lannisters to their bannermen like the Freys and Blackwoods. Some of those houses provide men for the North, while others simply focus on blocking the road to King's Landing from the neck. The Twins are closed off, and other lords are tasked with guarding that passage, as Tywin is allowed freedom to march to King's Landing. At the same time, the capital hurriedly tries to prepare for potential battles. Food is stockpiled as best it can, the city watch is tripled in size, and weapons are purchased. Yet they also hear strange reports from Stannis. His ships continue to blockade the Blackwater Bay, but others are said to be moving south. Some believe it might be to secure Storm's End, but some rumor has them going even further. With all this activity, no one notices a small boat making its way into the Red Keep, dropping off two figures who are dressed like servants. Neither one says anything as they blend into the Red Keep's household. The only one who notices something is amiss is Ned Stark when he finds a note slipped under his door that reads, "Dawn is upon us." The next day, Ned Stark says he wishes to confess his crimes. The Great Hall is restless. Cersei Lannister smiles like a lioness, circling her prey, seated beside the boy king. Joffrey drums his fingers on the armrest, eager to see heads roll. The lords of the court murmur with anticipation, and then Ned Stark stands.
I wish to confess, but first, I demand a trial by combat.
You think that will save you, traitor? Very well. The Crown names Sir Jaime Lannister as its champion.
The Kingslayer rises, his golden armor gleaming like freshly minted coin. He smiles, already imagining the fight to come. But before he can move, another voice echoes across the hall.
I will stand for Lord Stark.
All eyes turn. A man steps forward from the back of the court, gray-haired, dressed like a manservant, cloaked in coarse wool, but upright, proud. Something is unsettling in his calm, like a storm that hasn't broken. Snorts of laughter rise from the crowd. A hedge knight chortles. Only Sir Barristan Selmy and Jaime do not laugh. He leans forward, eyes narrowing at the man, as they both sense something unnatural about him, something familiar. They realize it a moment before the man unfastens an oil rag around his back and reveals a longsword. Sheathed blade. The laughter fades. Arthur Dayne draws Dawn, and the hall falls to silence. It's not just the sword, it's the way he stands, balanced, deliberate, the echo of something from another age.
The Sword of Morning.
Impossible.
It is a ghost. I am no shade. Have no fear there, good people. But because of that, I am fit to serve as champion. However, I will not raise against a knight of the Kingsguard if it can be prevented. So Jaime, I offer you the chance to yield now. You know I can't do that. You serve a king. That's a first. Very well then.
He offers Dawn to Sir Barristan, hilt first. In his place, he accepts the old knight's plain longsword.
You know what that sword means to me. Keep it safe.
Barristan accepts Dawn with reverence, and Arthur turns back toward Jaime.
I want this to be interesting.
A flush rises on Jaime's cheeks. He knows the meaning of this gesture, an act of chivalry, but also an insult to him. He says nothing, only draws steel. They circle. Arthur moves lightly on the balls of his feet, his blade held low and steady. Jaime opens aggressively, a quick strike toward the shoulder, but Arthur deflects it with ease and then counters with a sweeping cut. Jaime steps back from the attack and blocks the next. Sir Arthur is on him in an instant, swift as a shadow cat. It seems his skills have not rusted as steel rings across the Red Keep. Most can barely even keep track of the movements. The Kingslayer is certainly among them, as his blocks become clumsier and more desperate. He tries to hold these attacks at bay and occasionally lashes out, yet he might as well be fighting against a storm. There is no waste in the way the Sword of Morning moves. Every turn of the wrist, every step, is measured and fluid. Jaime presses harder, combinations faster now, stabs, slashes, overhands, but he can't find a gap. Arthur parries with effortless grace, like he's reading Jaime's thoughts before he acts. And then he counterattacks. A sharp strike to the side. Jaime blocks it, but just barely. The force of it drives him half a step back. Thinking quickly, Jaime backhands Sir Arthur and sends him stumbling. The blow knocks him aside, and the knight counters with a quick thrust that strikes Sir Arthur's unarmored side. However, the wound is shallow, and he smiles.
You've gotten better.
The two come at each other again. Another flurry, and this time the gap becomes more apparent. Jaime's rhythm is off. His blade feels heavy. His arms tense too soon. Arthur's calm unnerves him more than the swordplay. The Sword of Morning does not grin, does not taunt, does not flinch. He fights with the silence of a man who's already seen how the fight ends. He moves to disengage, but Arthur redirects the angle, slides under his guard, and suddenly Jaime's blade is spinning from his hand. It clatters to the floor. He stumbles back, breath ragged, and Arthur steps in close, sword resting lightly at the hollow of Jaime's throat.
Yield.
Jaime closes his eyes.
I yield.
The throne room is silent. Barristan Selmy steps forward, holding Dawn reverently. Cersei is frozen. Joffrey looks from face to face, confused. By law, Eddard Stark is free, and he wastes no time in leaving. As the two exit, they are joined by Sabella, who is watching from the shadows. They quickly make their way out towards the Red Keep, where Davos can pick them up. Yet as they make their way out, they soon find themselves being trailed by 6 men. They emerge from different corners of an alleyway, bearing steel and surrounding them. Sir Arthur pushes the Starks behind him and pulls out his sword. As they advance on him, they don't notice the figure who descends from above, blade flashing like silver in sunlight. One sellsword dies before he can blink. The rest fall in quick succession. One not even being able to raise his sword, another not even realizing he's being attacked, and the rest are quickly brushed aside and cut down. Sir Barristan smiles grimly at them.
I had a feeling she wouldn't honor her word.
I could have taken them, you know.
Come, the ship we have has room for one more.
Thankfully, they arrive there without further incident and set sail. Dragonstone is bleak and wind-bitten, its towers scraping at storm clouds. The painted table waits in its chamber, half covered in new parchment. Stannis Baratheon stands before it, grim as ever. He looks at Ned, at Sybil. His fingers twitch on the map's edge. Melisandre watches from the shadows. Ned tells the story, the Tower of Joy, the Kingsguard who stayed, the baby that was born to Lyanna, the years of silence, the heirs raised in exile, the blood debt left unpaid.
The prince that was promised, not born of lust, but of duty, fire and frost.
Is just a fairy tale, a legend. And that is assuming that it is even true and not just some scheme concocted by them. Girl, you said that you were here to help me.
I said we were to help you get justice.
Stannis listens, hard and quiet.
This is no lie. I sense it in the flames. What they say about this boy, I believe it to be true.
A boy Targaryen, hidden right under our noses this whole time. Robert will be turning in his grave right now. This Jon, is he ready?
I've prepared him for years. He's as ready as he'll ever be.
And Viserys, you would crown him?
No, but I would restore him. He deserves peace. The realm deserves truth. You of all people understand that. You asked for our support because it was your right by law. Well, now another has such a claim. What do you say?
We understand this is a difficult position to put you in. So we also offer you the office as Hand of the King, and a chance to marry into the Targaryens.
Stannis thinks for a long moment.
Then let us bring this storm to them.
The black waters around Braavos are calm as the warship glides through the lagoon. The Titan looms overhead, cold and silent. Stannis Baratheon stands at the prow, unmoved by the salt wind. Beside him, Ned Stark watches the city rise like a mirage of domes and shadows. The ship bears 3 banners: the crowned stag, the direwolf, and the falling star of House Dayne. Word spreads fast in the Free City. By the time they disembark, the Targaryens and the exiled Kingsguard are waiting. Sir Geralt Hightower greets them first, still broad-shouldered and commanding despite the gray in his beard. Sir Oswald Went is more cautious, his eyes flickering from face to face like a duelist assessing openings. And yet, when they see Sir Arthur and Sir Barristan, they greet them as old friends. Inside their manse is Viserys and Daenerys Targaryen. As introductions pass and formalities are set aside, they fall inside the house. They share their stories and hear the plan. Stannis has agreed to back them, and so have the North and Dorne. They land in the Crownlands and take King's Landing. There, they agree to crown Jon as king.
I am the rightful king, not a boy raised by wolves and lies. I was named heir by my father.
Your father was mad when he did. Besides, Jon is the legal heir. He is Rhaegar's son.
Your Grace, I understand this is hard, but we all have suffered and we cannot let division get in the way now.
Suffered? You were not the ones forced to leave your home, fearful of stepping out from these walls. You all speak of prophecy, of peace, of unity, but no one speaks of justice. I lived in exile while he was pampered by lords and tutored by swords.
And yet, somehow, you got your education too. Or was I mistaken about all the lessons I remember teaching you?
I learned because I knew how to survive. He learned so he could call himself a prince. Why should I bend the knee to him?
Because he is Rhaegar's son, and Lyanna's, and because you are not your father, Viserys.
One by one, the Kingsguard align themselves with Jon. Daenerys doesn't argue. She simply places a hand on her brother's shoulder, but her touch does little to soothe him. Viserys' pride is wounded. His silence after the vote is colder than his words. To placate him, Geralt proposes a compromise. He had spoken to his grandniece, Lynese Hightower, who serves as the consort for a wealthy Lynese trade prince. He managed to convince her to send several sellsword companies, which are given to Viserys. Together, they led the initial strike on the Seven Kingdoms. They choose Duskendale, a port town with bitter memories of the crown, as their first blow. Lannister banners fly from the towers, but the fleet arrives before dawn, sails furled under mist and silence. Viserys stands tall at the prow, his silver hair whipping in the wind. For the first time, he commands men not just out of birthright, but through strategy, preparation, and promise. He leads the first blow, feeling like Aegon the Conqueror as they land in the Crownlands. Though the castle flies Lannister colors, Viserys commands a bombardment from the fleet before hitting them with an amphibious assault. His trained sellswords stream through the waves and strike at the busy harbor. The sellswords strike first, but they are followed by the flotilla Stannis stands south, not to the Stormlands as some reports suggest, but to Dorne, where they pick up a Dornish army. They rush out of the galleys, commanded by Lady Abara and Nym of the Sand Snakes, their spears glimmering with red tassels. They smash the Lannister garrison in a pincer attack. The defenders retreat inland, bleeding, and Duskendale falls. In the north, the neck is crossed at last. House Manderly's fleets set sail through channels, linking with Stannis' river force. Narrow boats and galleys assemble to capture the twins. Jon rides at the front with Torrens, now taller than many knights, armored in steel and northern fury. While their army storms the twins from the north half, these river galleys support them and harass their castle on the riverland side. Behind them, a fleet of riverboats make a bridge, allowing Jon to lead a force to flank the twins where their defenses are weaker. At the same time, Torrens commands an assault on the northern half, laughing and saying the first one on the battlements will be the next sword of the morning. The twins fall after 3 days of siege. The Freys resist, but the river burns around them. Jon leads the final charge across the southern span. Torrens is the first over the wall, smashing open the gate with a borrowed hammer. They raise the Stark banners as the Freys scatter. From there, the campaign spreads. Northmen and Baratheon bannermen sweep across the riverlands, striking deep in the region. The Riverlords gathered in Riverrun and rushed to confront them, as Jason Mallister and Tyros Blackwood led advanced forces to harass their army. They strike from the rivers and disappear down the rushes, leaving Jon's river fleet to chase after them in vain. Jon himself proves to be an able commander. He organizes daring river crossings where he personally commands cavalry charges through the crossings and scattering defending troops. Meanwhile, Torrens captures several minor castles in quick succession, but takes care to treat the Riverlords who put up a good fight with respect. Villages open their gates to wolves and stags. Jon proves a reluctant but effective commander, measured where Viserys is bold, merciful where Stannis is cold. He takes care not to take his anger out on the small folk, but on the lords. Meanwhile, Stannis and Ned strike south to King's Landing. They do not move directly, but advance cautiously, trying to move around the Lannister force. All of them are experienced commanders, and not one to risk battle if it can be avoided, or until they have every possible advantage. They instead satisfy themselves with small skirmishes, raids, and ambushing smaller parties. Tywin is equally wary, not wanting to sacrifice his army in a battle that is far from conclusive. He learns this the hard way after sending 2,000 men to launch a probing strike to gauge their strength. There, they run into the secret weapon of the Targaryen army. While Tywin was too young to join them, she and her father concocted a deadly poison to be sent along with the Dornish. Now their archers loose them upon the advancing men-at-arms. Soon, many of these men feel woozy, tumbling off their horses or coughing blood. This blunts their charge and allows the army to crush them. After that, Tywin remains wary of risking battle. Renly and the Reach remain still. They drink wine in Highgarden, watching their rivals bleed each other dry. Lord Tarly waits like a drawn sword, but does not march. The Stormlands hold their breath. No one moves. Yet. The Crownlands sit smothered under smoke and stalemate. To the west of King's Landing, Tywin Lannister commands from the Blackwood Rush. His banner is planted atop every hillock between the city and the Rose Road. With him stand the hardened core of the Westerland's army. Knights from Craighall, men-at-arms from Ashmark, crossbow companies trained during the last rebellion, and hunting robber knights. Veterans, all. He has them hold the riverbanks for weeks while the Crownlanders are cowed and made to help him. Opposite him, the combined forces of Viserys, the Dornish, and Dragonstone levies wait in the forests east of Duskendale and the Rook's Rest Hills. Dornish outriders skirmish around the edges, probing, always testing, but the commanders are cautious, too cautious. Lord Fowler urges delay. Sir Barristan advises patience. Even Sir Arthur, though grim about it, agrees. The Sand Snakes are not foolish enough to challenge a man like the Sword of Morning. Tywin's strength lies not just in his numbers, but also in his discipline. He wants to lure them into a mistake, and he knows if he presses too hard, he risks committing to a battle he cannot be guaranteed to win. Yet Ned and Stannis are happy to wait, because Jon Stark is coming. To the west, the riverlands burn with northern fire. Jon leads an army forged by northern spears, rebellious riverlords, and outlaw bands seeking justice. With Torrhen Stark at his side, now known as the Hammer of the Twins, they sweep down from the Seaguard and Maidenpool and tear through the Lannister outpost in their path. Jon captures Raventree Hall, while Torrhen swarms Stonehenge and rouses support from the Brackens. Now they stand at the gates of Harrenhal, a blackened ruin of superstition and shadow. Its garrison held by House Went and reinforced by men from Houses Piper, Prester, and Sarsfield. But Jon encircles the cursed castle with methodical precision, placing scorpions on the outer towers and archers in every burning village nearby. Meanwhile, his hammer batters their walls as Torrens leads the attack on all sides. The siege drags on for more than a month, but he takes ground every day, and after that the eastern roads will be made cleared and he can advance towards the Crownlands and trap Tywin Lannister. Ned, Stannis, and the Kingsguard agreed it is a good plan and dig in. happy to keep him occupied. But Viserys cannot wait. He watches council meetings where his ideas are dismissed. He sees Jon praised, Daenerys trusted, and even Stannis respected by old knights who once served Aerys. So he moves. Without orders, Viserys gathers sellswords from Lys, numbering some 2,000 men, bolstered by Braavosi gold and ambitious petty lords eager for spoils. They move. He sails southward with speed, striking toward Massey's Hook, the peninsula carving southeast of the capital. His target is Sharp Point, and from there, Stone Dance. Both small castles, but critical. If he holds the Hook, he can threaten King's Landing from the rear and force Tywin to spread his army further. At Sharp Point, he finds success. The garrison surrenders with barely a fight, and Viserys raises the dragon banner over the cliffs. He speaks to his men as if he's Aegon returned. But then, at Stone Dance, the tides turn. Tywin, informed by ravens from nearby Rosby, sends a reinforcement column of 4,000 led by Sir Adam Marbrand and Sir Davin Lannister. They arrive before Viserys can fortify it. The sellswords fight well, trying to hold back the attackers, but a portion cuts off their supplies by slipping past their defenses and reoccupying Sharp Point. With his supplies cut off, Viserys is forced to force a breakout, suffering heavy losses before his few men manage to escape into the hills of the Hook, clinging to rocky outcroppings and whispering forests. Dornish scouts try to reach him, but are cut down. Viserys barely keeps the force together. Half his officers fall, and he nearly dies crossing a bog as arrows whistle past his head. At the same time, Tywin organizes a flying column strike at the weakened Baratheon lines. Without their sellswords to help them, they manage to score a series of minor victories that leave hundreds dead. Stannis tries to find the situation, sailing his fleet to rescue Viserys. When he arrives, he finds the Lynese troops reduced by half, bloodied, barefoot, and furious. They load up whoever they can and retreat to Duskendale.
You disobeyed orders.
Viserys does not rise. He sits in the corner, soaked and shivering, crown clutched in his lap.
I only wanted to prove...
You proved you're reckless. You cost us lives. You risked the entire campaign. You proved that I was right not to trust you.
Stannis' voice is a blade, not raised, just lowered. He doesn't shout. He turns away for a moment, his face shadowed.
I remembered her singing to me in the cradle. My mother. Rhaenys. I was only a babe, but I remember the song. I wanted to be the son she'd be proud of. The son who brought her justice.
What are you talking about? You knew Aerys.
Of course I knew.
His voice breaks and he clutches the crown tighter. And to Stannis' astonishment, he sees the prince starting to tear up. He lifts the crown in his hands, a small silver circlet once worn by Rhaenys.
He was a madman. I knew it. I didn't want to believe it. She tried to shout to me, tell me everything was fine, but I saw the marks on her. I saw the pain in her eyes.
What does that have to do with this?
She said I would rule, that I would be king one day. I told myself I wanted to be a good king, that I could make things right. But she died before I could ever rule. I waited too long. I didn't want to wait now. Not as long as the Lannisters continue to do evil on the Iron Throne. And when Sir Oswald told me what my father was like, I told them I wouldn't just wait any longer. I don't want to be the Mad King. I just want to do something that matters.
Silence.
Is that why you keep that crown?
Yes.
I had to give up my crown as well, to support your family's claim. I had intended to muster my swords and claim the Iron Throne for myself. I was the legal heir of Robert, and yet I was persuaded to put it aside.
Was it difficult?
It was one of the most difficult things I've ever done. But I suppose I learned something else. You don't need a crown to bring it. That crown of yours, keep it. Remind yourself of what your mother would have wanted, but do not think for a moment that it defines you. I lost my parents at sea. They were looking for a bride for your brother. Instead, they found a fool in Valentus. They said he was to be a gift for me. Yet when they returned, a storm rolled in and their ship was dashed on rocks. The fool lived somehow. I could barely look at him. But he brought my daughter such joy. I could not bear to part with him. I learned that day justice only comes from men. We must forge it ourselves, even if we get burned along the way.
Viserys nods, slowly. His fingers tighten around the circlet. When they return to camp, Viserys announces he will no longer command independently, but he will stay at Stannis' side as a wartime steward. Tywin's attack was fully committed, as now he decides it is time to risk battle, that their lines have been weakened and Stannis is away. His army hammers the Targaryen forces day and night, with Ser Gregor leading strike after strike. Across the entire front, their forces give way. Even the poisoned arrows provided by the Dornish do not stop them, and begin to run out. What of the Kingsguard? The four knights seem to be everywhere, riding up and down the lines, rallying their troops wherever they can. When they enter the battle, they move closer to the gods of war than men, cutting through men-at-arms and knights with ease. Along with Ned Stark's steady hand, he keeps the line together until at last Stannis returns with the remaining sellswords. Seeing the opportunity slipping away, Tywin reluctantly withdraws. From the east, Jon and Torrhen soon arrive, bringing their army with them. Now pressed from two sides, Tywin begins his retreat to the capital. King's Landing is fortified, and he prepares for the siege, which begins in earnest. While Ned oversees the construction of siege engines, the rest of the army streams forward and tries to take the walls by storm. The fighting is fierce, as Torrhen commands the northern host on one side and Barristan the other. The knight's presence demoralizes the Lannister men, while his fellow Kingsguard parade their banners below. Seeing not one, but four legendary knights riding alongside the enemy is enough to leave some bannermen questioning why they are serving Tywin. The small folk are even less convinced, as they recall how Tywin sacked their city once. Now, they allow it to starve, and he ends up having to commit his men to keep them pacified. And then, the siege towers rise. Two massive structures roll forward and assault the walls from opposite ends. The Northmen's towers strike first, with Jon and Torrhen's being the first in the wall. The young squire sweeps his axe around, clearing a path for his older brother. Jon follows, sword in hand, as he effortlessly cuts through the defenders. Sir Oswald and Sir Arthur Dayne are at his side and keep him safe, yet the siege towers catch fire and isolate them, leaving the Northmen scrambling to get ladders up the wall. On the other side, Viserys has more success. Under Stannis, he is more patient and carefully organizes their assault. He waits until the right time and then unleashes the siege tower. Stannis, Sir Barristan, and Geralt Hightower rush in ahead, while Viserys picks off men with his crossbow. Eventually, both assaults break the enemy lines, and the Lannisters collapse. Tywin tries desperately to rally his men, but people have had enough, and they pull him from his horse and kill him. By evening, the Red Keep has fallen into Targaryen hands, and for the first time in 15 years, a Targaryen sits atop the Iron Throne as Jon places himself there. To his surprise, Viserys offers him his crown, while Arthur Dayne a sword. The rest of the Kingsguard, his brothers and sisters, and his army all bow before him. But peace does not follow. Across the Reach, in Stormlands, Renly Baratheon marches. He rides at the head of 70,000 men, a great green tide of banners and flowers, with Stormlander war drums and Tyrell gold funding every step. Lords from Shipbreaker Bay to the Arbor rally behind him. Renly's pretext is thin, to liberate the capital from northern tyranny. But his intent is clear. He means to claim the throne. He strikes first at Rosby, overwhelming the garrison, then marches north along the Rose Road with frightening speed. Jon holds the city, but barely. He rides out in a series of battles, aiming to beat them back alongside Stokeworth. The North host is depleted, ravaged by siege and weeks of brutal fighting. The Dornish remain far to the south, unable to spare further reinforcements, and their sellswords are wiped out. Their victory relies on four men: Sir Arthur Dayne, Sir Barristan Selmy, Sir Oswald Went, Sir Geralt Hightower. They ride together for the first time since the days of the Mad King, silver and white, steel and silence. Some call them ghosts, others gods. When Renly's vanguard strikes the city outer walls at Stokeworth, the Kingsguard lead the countercharge. Arthur cuts down 5 men in a blur of silver. Oswald holds the rampart with a spear and shield, and soon sitting atop a pile of corpses. Geralt breaks a dozen cavalrymen in the mud outside. Barristan duels Sir Bryce Cairn in open view and halts his vanguard before driving him back before the cheering army. Their presence buys time, but nothing more. For every Reachman killed, 2 more march forward. As the city's outer defenses begin to falter, a raven arrives from Sunspear. Doran Martell has seen enough. Oberyn rides with 80,000 spearmen and cavalry across the marches, bypassing Storm's End entirely and cutting into the Rainwood, sacking towns, setting fire to Griffin's Roost, and daring the Stormlords to abandon Renly's main host. It works, partly. Several thousand soldiers peel off from the Rose Road campaign, but Mace Tyrell remains in Highgarden, untouched, commanding nearly 10,000 men. Even with Oberyn's raid, Renly still outnumbers Jon, and it is only a matter of time. A simple raid cannot do enough. They need something bigger, and Viserys comes up with an idea. Stannis and Viserys sail west. The plan is madness. Take Old Town by surprise, using Geralt Hightower's name to swear the defenders. If they can claim the second largest city in the realm, even for a short time, they force Renly's hand. He cannot allow the Tyrell heartland to be endangered. At first, one believed it would work, but Geralt rides to his old home, the High Tower of Old Town, and people remember. The small folk whisper of the White Bull rising again. Then Ser Barristan walks the streets without a helmet or banner, and they begin to gather. Daenerys is by his side, and Ashara Dayne, proclaiming their brother and son as king. The guards are ordered to arrest them, but no one dares lay a hand on them, not as long as the two legendary knights protect them. Soon, more troops begin to land, as Stannis contests their naval superiority and lands more troops. By the end of the third day, the city bell rings for Targaryen peace. Banners of House Tyrell are pulled down. Viserys walks the Starry Sept in silence, the crown in his hands. News reaches Renly 2 weeks later. Old Town is in rebellion. Dornish raiders cut his supply lines. Even Mace's army is not enough. He has allowed Lord Leighton and his levies to return home along with Lord Redwyn and his fleet to transport them. Thousands depart, shrinking his army. And in the capital, Jon strikes. Reinforced by newly arrived river lords and fresh northern regiments, Jon launches a counteroffensive from the Blackwater Bay, catching Renly's vanguard off balance. The Kingsguard led again, cleaving through Tarly banners while Ned and Torrens rush forward from the other side, battering their flanks. Sybil and the Sand Snakes circle and attack their rear, throwing their army into panic. Soon the army is penning Renly with his back against the Kingswood. Renly attempts retreat. He is struck from his horse by an axe during a rout at the border. By day's end, the banners of House Baratheon are torn and trampled in the mud. Renly lies dying in a makeshift camp near the ruins of a watchtower. Jon finds it beneath a white banner of surrender. The sword that killed him lies at his side. He looks up at Jon, not with anger, but with a strange relief.
I should have stayed in Highgarden. They always liked me more there.
Jon says nothing, only nods. By nightfall, Renly Baratheon is dead. Old Town is under siege, but it holds. Viserys remains inside the city, refusing to flee, walking the walls in full armor. Daenerys and Ashara remain with him, speaking to the small folk and rallying them to support Jon Snow. Those loyal to the Tyrells battle with these people while Stannis organizes the defenses. They capture the port and other key areas, but are unable to breach the High Tower, even with the White Bull's help. Viserys walks along the streets, his mother's crown polished bright, his hands still shaking from the gamble he took. Then, the Dornish army under Oberyn swings back and rushes to their side, forcing the Tyrells to dip their banners and surrender. With that, the war is over, and Jon is proclaimed king, and Viserys is named his heir. To everyone's surprise, Stannis offers to forego his marriage pact with Jon, and instead marries Shireen to Viserys, who is made Master of Law. Sybil becomes Master of Whispers, and Torrens is trained by the Kingsguard, as well as being named heir to Winterfell. Ashara and Ned watch all of this unfold, their hearts swelling with pride at the sight of their children. That's our theory. Westeros is a land filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey across the Seven Kingdoms and beyond, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.